topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Hey, we are so glad you've tuned in today. We have a great show. We're going to be talking about common assets that deserve better treatment. We have one of the finest estate planning attorneys in the state of Texas with attorney Julia Dean. She's the managing attorney at the Dean Law Firm in Sugar Land, Texas. The Dean Law Firm specializes in estate planning, related areas such as probate, guardianship, elder law, and special needs planning, located also in Sugar Land, Texas. She has over 30 years experience. She's one of our long-time experts. We love her. She is, I think when you're an estate planning attorney, you have to have a big heart. You've got to be a special person. And Attorney Dean is a very special person. Let me welcome her. She's been with us for the last 3 years, Attorney Julia Dean. Good afternoon, Attorney.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you so much. It's great to see you.
You know, I really do mean that. I think that estate planning is a special area of law, that it takes a special heart to be experienced in estate planning like you are. And you're just the perfect person to sit down with family members. I mean, you're talking about death, which is not the greatest subject to talk about, but it's got to be handled. And, you know, what we're going to try to do here is get people not to wait till the last minute. And that is what is so special about your show.
Thank you. Well, I love what I do because it does help so many people. If we can proactively plan, we always can do so much more. And, you know, some of the things we're going to talk about today are just a piece of that. You know, usually we're talking about the overall, what we're going to do with some things. We're going to talk about some specific things and some specific assets that we can do, strategize with, and make your estate plan even better.
Well, we're talking about common assets that deserve better treatment. That's a really intriguing topic. What assets are you referring to when you say common assets?
Well, so I'm thinking about certain assets that have, where if we treat them in a different way, we can get better tax planning or asset protection or other things like that. So I'm thinking about retirement accounts for first. I'm also thinking about some investment accounts. I'm thinking about our real estate investments. And I'm thinking about our businesses, our small businesses in particular. So oftentimes we set up these investments or these businesses, and we're not really thinking about how we do that and how we strategize for future generations. So, I want to talk about that today because I think there's some really great things that we can do.
What is it about common assets that really need additional attention as you're planning for your estate?
Well, these are all the assets that we're going to have an opportunity to strategize in a different way, so we can maximize either the tax benefits so that we can minimize or eliminate taxes, or maybe we can protect those assets so that they aren't subject to creditors' judgments out there, that the courts can't take it and do something with it. Or we can limit the liability so that we can protect our other assets. So that's why these assets are so unique, and that we have some additional planning tools that we can put around them.
It's almost like you have to be a CPA also to go along with estate
Well, you
planning.
need to know a lot of tax, though, for sure. I feel like I've learned a lot of it, at least in this area.
Do they change a lot year to year?
It can, and taxes are kind of our political football out there, whether it's federal taxes, state or local taxes, and so we have to keep our eye on all of it. I'm generally looking at or death taxes, what we call state taxes, and income taxes, and kind of how they interplay in our assets and passing those legacies. But we think about capital gains taxes and others that might be out there too. And not only just in Texas, but we have beneficiaries who are in other states. So we need to think about the impact there too, not just here, but if someone's living in another state or another country.
Can you explain the benefits that we're given with our retirement accounts? I think that's a very important area.
Yes. So some of those, we have different kinds of retirement accounts. So we have our traditional retirement accounts. Those are things like your IRAs, your traditional IRAs, your traditional 401ks, 403bs. Those are all retirement accounts that we get a tax benefit now. We don't have to pay income tax on it. It's not considered part of our income. It just comes off the top, and we get to set it aside, and that continues to grow tax deferred until we have to start taking it out. And when we have to start taking it out, that's called our required minimum distributions, or RMDs for short. And when we have to start taking it out, we start paying taxes on it over, for us, our remaining life expectancy. Now, right now, we don't have to start taking it out until we're 73. It's changed over time. And let's say they decide we have a 25-year life expectancy left, then they would, under IRS tables, they decide what our life expectancy is. And then we get to take out, just a little bit every year for the remainder of our life expectancy. Now, before then, we can take out assets before, but we pay taxes on what we take out of our retirement account. Those are our traditional IRAs, 401k. Just think of them as tax deferred. We haven't paid taxes up front, but we will have to pay them at some point in time. The IRS is going to say, give that money to me. So that it'll come, it just depends when it comes. And then we have Roth IRAs or 401ks that we've paid taxes on those funds. So we're not getting an income tax deduction now, but we continue to have growth that is tax-free, and we can take it out when we get to, we don't have to take out the required minimum distributions. We just continue to get that tax-free deferral. And remember, when it's deferring like that, it's compounding. And so we get an additional benefit, and that our money's compounding, either tax deferred or tax-free.
We just got a text from a viewer. I really enjoy listening to your show. I have a company that has been taking care of my estate planning. Is it against the rules for me to sit down with you for a second opinion? That's kind of a good question.
That is a good question. No, I'm happy to do a second opinion and just take a look at everything again and just see, okay, do you have all the pieces in there? Do we need to add anything? Just like we're talking about some of these special assets, maybe we do want to add something that can maximize those special assets. So as we talk about it today and next month, we're going to talk about, special things we can do with retirement or our investment accounts or our businesses or our real estate investments. So those are, good things to look at, because sometimes we're adding those asset protection or limiting liability with different pieces that we add to our estate plan. So generally, because a company provides a benefit, doesn't mean you can't go outside that or have a second opinion or have it redone if you feel like that's, if it's not the right plan for you.
I think the listeners really appreciate how you explain everything, and that's one of the things that makes your firm and yourself so special. How do these special tax benefits affect inheritance when it comes to giving our spouse and family? That's another really important area.
It really is, because it's, for most of us, our home and our retirement assets are our biggest assets. So if we can maximize those for our loved ones, what a huge gift that is to them. And so depending, we had talked about there's traditional and there's Roth, IRAs or retirement accounts. So how we gift it to someone depends on what kind of account it is now too. So when we gift our traditional IRAs or 401ks to our family, they're still in that tax deferred status. Now, they could take it all out right away if you give it to them outright in a beneficiary designation and pay all the taxes on it, which would not be a very wise thing to do, because we could stretch that out at least 10 years and allow that to continue to compound tax deferred or tax free, and tax free if it's Roth, tax deferred if it's traditional, for at least 10 years. And sometimes, depending on the situation of that individual, we may get their full life expectancy. So if they're chronically ill or special needs, we can get a full life expectancy. If we're giving it to our child and they're a minor child, we can have a benefit of kind of a hybrid situation where we can give them a life expectancy and stretch until they're 21, and then they get an additional 10 years. So it could be, 30 or 31 year stretch, depending on how long, how old our children are at that point in time. And the longer we have to either delay taxes or allow it to grow tax-free, the bigger benefit we can give them. So let's say, it's 5 years, and some of our other trusts, we can only do 5 years. Well, if we can stretch that to 10 years by putting in a different kind of trust, then now we are not only doubling the benefit to your beneficiaries, we're more than doubling it, because remember, it's compounding tax deferred or tax free. So it's really great, to be able to stretch it out as long as possible and allow it, especially if we have beneficiaries who might need a little more oversight, they're minors, or, we can even do this for people who are great with money, but we're making sure that we're getting it stretched out as long as possible when we pass it along to those who are inheriting from us.
Just got another text in from a listener, really enjoying the show. My problem is I do not want to be in business with my partner's wife should something happen to him. What can I do about that?
Yeah, so planning on the business side of things is really important, because in Texas, where our assets, including our businesses that we've acquired during our marriage, is community property. And she has a undivided 1/2 interest ownership in the business, even if her name is not on that. And so to do some planning where we actually, state what will happen, excuse me, what will happen in either a death, a divorce, incapacity, what we call a buy-sell agreement, or just even in our own documents, what would happen during that, then that will allow us to decide beforehand that, spouses won't be a part of that, but maybe we're going to purchase them out. And so there may be ways to do that. We utilize life insurance and life insurance trust to do that many times, because there might not be the liquidity to purchase it, but the company could buy that kind of life insurance to allow that to happen. So that is another kind of special asset where we do want to think about, okay, what are the consequences if we don't do any planning? The consequences are, your spouse will be a part of it, or your partner's spouse will be a part of this. And that is not usually the ideal situation. You didn't go into business with them originally, and you usually don't want to keep it that way. But the spouse has an interest in it. So let's think of a way to gracefully, pay for her interest, or, to make sure that, okay, that things transfer and we've already predetermined what the price would be on that.
Julia, there is so much to understand when it comes to estate planning. When you take on a new client, do you do all this planning at one time, or is it over a period of time? How do you do that? Because there's so much to absorb.
Yes, you're right. There is. I do an overview when I first meet with people. I do have a comprehensive questionnaire so that I can use my time with potential clients, going over and educating them. I'm not just trying to gather information, because that could take the whole time. I already have
Right.
that information, so I can educate you on your best options and what would be best for them. So a lot of times I do cover a lot of things. We go over it again. We can either choose to do it all at once, but sometimes we know it needs to be in stages and it needs to be in pieces. And so for very complex plans, oftentimes we'll do some strategy for a while and get the plan in place and do it in phases. So yeah, it depends on the complexity of the estate.
Okay. Is there a preferred way for us to set up our estate plan in order for our spouse and family to receive these special tax benefits?
And when we get these special tax benefits with our retirement accounts, there is a special way that we can get it down to a spouse sometimes, if we want to do it in a protected way, or especially to our children and other, descendants, loved ones. And we can do that in a retirement inheritance trust. That's what I call it. People call it different things, but it is a trust only for retirement funds. And so it goes into this trust upon your passing. It can fund a trust for the spouse, or maybe we want to do it outright for the spouse and do a spousal rollover and then to the children. But then I have separate subtrust within it. And each subtrust can be dealt with differently. So maybe we have two children that are adults and they would get a 10-year stretch. And so they would get the best tax treatment on that. As well as all the trust benefits, which would be asset protection on those funds. It would be divorce protections on those funds, and all the funds that are in there, if it goes in exempt from death taxes, will continue to grow and pass on to next generations exempt from death taxes as well. So let's say we have two that would have that 10-year stretch, but then we have a special needs child. And they get a full life expectancy. So we have a subtrust for them where they get a full life expectancy to pay out the taxes, allowing it to grow even longer and better and amplify the benefits that we're giving to our special needs individual. And then let's say we have a minor child and they're 10. And so we get to give them another 10 years till they're 21 plus another 10 years. So we get 20 years to stretch out that period of time where they have to pay the taxes. 11 years plus 10 years, 21 years to do that. So do math. My dad would roll over in his grave. He's a mathematician. It's just being on the air. So it goes to 21 to 11 years plus 10 years.
People.
Right. 21.
No big deal.
Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah, but that way we can stretch it out as long as we possibly can for each individual. Each individual will have this force field, I call it, around these trusts, because we don't have any courts that can get through to it. The only exception would be child support claims, but no other creditors can get to it. And then we have the tax planning embedded in it that can go on from generation to generation and be these dynasty trusts that can go without getting taxed again and again with death taxes at different generational levels, which I love. Now in Texas, we can do this for 300 years, these dynasty trusts, for real estate 100 years. So we take our retirement funds and we pay out the taxes within the period of time. But now it's being transferred, those benefits, and we've maximized them, and now we're investing them different ways, and we're having it go down through the generations. And what an incredible legacy that we can give our loved ones with our retirement benefits that, we may or may not use them all, but if we don't use them all, what a great legacy to leave behind.
God, there are just so many tools that you have that when you leave this earth that you don't have to worry, what kind of position you're going to leave family members in. And I mean, just think of, what a load off your mind to be able to take care of all this now and not leave everybody in a bad situation when you leave this earth.
Yes. And I see it both ways. I see it where people have planned and it just goes so smoothly. And, it's just a great gift to their loved ones. And I've seen where they have not planned and it is a nightmare. And, usually we're in court and sometimes we're finding additional beneficiaries like other children that we didn't even know about. I mean, it's just a really heartbreaking kind of situation. But even for those that are the most straightforward, it still takes so much time and it's much more effort at a time when they're grieving. And that's the last thing they should have to be going through. So I love the trust planning in that it's just so little administration, sometimes virtually none. It's like when my dad passed away, there was nothing for Mom and I to do, and I would have been the one doing it, obviously. And so, so there was nothing that I had to do other than get the retirement account in her name. And, so it was so easy, and it allowed me to grieve. It allowed my mom to grieve, our family to grieve without having to worry about legal things. And that's really an intangible benefit, yes, of all our trust, it's just having that incredible benefit for your loved ones that you don't even realize is such an incredible benefit until you walk that road. Otherwise, I just think of, the asset protection, the divorce protection, the tax planning. But there's so much more, that we can give to our loved ones and, just giving them this ease and not having to worry about things and allowing them to grieve at a time when they need to do that and they need to be bonding together and they need to know what direction to go and not to have any kind of fights or disagreements about things that could have been planned well in advance.
Well, Julie, I got to tell you, we are so blessed to have you.
Thank you.
Let's give everybody if you're watching, we've been running the phone number and the website throughout the show, but let's give everybody your phone number and website who've been listening through radio or podcast.
So my phone number is 281-277-3326. And my website is juliadeanlaw.com. So it's just my name, Julia, Julia, Dean, Dean, law, law.com. And so if you go there, you'll find a contact us page and you can send us, requests for a consultation, any questions that you have. And then our firm will reach out to you, or you can call us directly and we'd love to talk to you. We always try to have someone answering the phones. And if we can't, we'll get back to you right away.
Oh, and they will. Customer service is so important to your firm. Julia, have a wonderful week. This show, if you missed any part of it, we're going to be rerunning the show in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, we'll be rerunning the show if you missed any of it. Or you can go to iHeart or YouTube and either watch or listen to the show again. Julia, thank you so much. God bless you.
You too.
Good to see you. That's attorney Julia Dean. She is, I'm telling you folks, get your estate planning done if you haven't had it done. She is the perfect person for this. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.